Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me once again on another episode of Pages from My Notebook, a True to Life podcast. I'm Erica, your host, and today I'm making this episode for all my girls, or they, thems, whoever out here can relate, but to all the people who have been waiting for their epic romance to begin. Lately, I've just been sitting and thinking, and of course, when do I not overthink everything, but I was just thinking about how much I cherish love and romantic connections and how much I've always wanted that throughout my entire life. And coming into my very young adulthood, which obviously I have so much more love ahead of me in my life, but I'm jumping ahead of myself. Just thinking about how being a hopeless romantic, really since the inception of when I could consume love content, has really... It's been a beautiful way to look at life, but also has generated a lot of frustration and feeling inadequate next to all of my peers who were able to, start to find love in middle school and high school. And thinking about it as an adult, I really did save myself from a lot, but I'm also honoring my younger self and her wants and needs in a way by acknowledging that those were legitimate, desires that I didn't get to fulfill. I've had this episode draft about being a hopeless romantic for a while now, but in thinking about it more and writing out the outline, I wanted to also tie in being a late bloomer. I just previously mentioned about how in middle school and high school, you start to compare yourself to your peers who start to have these romantic experiences, and you haven't. As a young adult now, and starting to dip my feet into these experiences, I'm feeling behind, confused, like I don't know what I'm doing. Do I even deserve it at this point? So there's a lot to unpack around this whole topic. But if you're out there and you've had an experience like me, just keep on listening. This episode is for all my girls, and for me, when I say girls, sis, it's gender neutral. We're all sister in here, but this episode is for any person, human in the universe that can relate to it. But it's for all the people who haven't had their epic romance in their teens and are entering their early, mid, even late 20s, possibly 30s, without that sweep me off my feet, head over heels love that we have been conditioned to want and to a certain extent expect at some point in our early lives and dating careers. I can already tell this is going to be a very vulnerable sparkle emoji episode. Not because it's something that's hard to talk about. Like, I love talking about love. Hello. I will discuss epic romances with anybody at any point in time of day. But for me, not experiencing things, I take me... See, y'all, I'm getting tongue-tied. No. But I take my lack of romantic experience as a failure of some kind. And, if you listen to any other episode, I had a really bad perfectionist problem and a people-pleasing problem. And thinking that if I made any mistake, then I was letting down the expectation of what other people thought I was or that I should be. And with something as personal as romance and love, it feels like, yes, I'm behind everyone else, but also I'm failing myself. There's a part of me that wants something that I can't just work hard to get. It's not a grade you can earn or a paper I can write or an award I can win. It's something that has to happen naturally, or so we think. So being a girl who, up until the age of 21, which, side note, I'm my half birthday was 2 weeks ago. How has it been 6 months already? I don't know. But I'm a girl who, up until the age of 21, had never... Oh, why am I embarrassed? See, okay. What we're going to do right now, we're going to establish a no shame zone. Yes, I'm choosing to put my personal business on the internet, but I'm doing it for the purpose of somebody like me someday finding this and feeling seen. That's the whole purpose of my podcast. That's the purpose of why I want my career to be helping people reach their full potential in their living spaces and how they go about the world, because we all always feel alone in something, but the reality is there's always somebody who's gone through it before us. There's always somebody who can share that experience and their wisdom. So, especially in a realm of love, being a Black girl, being a fat Black girl, being the glasses wearing, awkward, natural hair, everything that society says is not desirable, even in childhood, that's not something you want to be, being that girl and talking about love and seeing yourself as the main character and knowing what you deserve and not taking any crap. So there's no shame zone. If you're listening to this, just know that everything you have experienced is valid and it's okay, because it's your story, and it's these experiences that are going to shape you and get you to the person that you're meant to be and the relationships that you're meant to have. I didn't mean to pop off right then, but I had to sit here and be real with myself, because what good does it do me or anyone else for me to not police, but be hard on myself in this space, i.e. the podcast that I've curated as a product of my own mind. Wow, not me getting fake deep. See, here I go trying to downplay it with humor, but just know this is a no shame zone. You don't have to share your business with other people, but just know that I'm doing it with you for healing for both of us, because I think this is another episode topic too, but we're taught to hold things so close to the vest. And that's why, as I just said, I want to be representation to show people that they're not alone, especially talking about love, because it's something that's so personal. So no shame here. It's going to get real, raw, and just honest. So before I went on my small tangent about not having shame surrounding your love journey, I was saying that until the age of 21, I had never talked to, dated, held hands, hugged, kissed, made eye contact for a long time with a man romantically, ever. Or I guess up until this point, boys romantically, because the last time I had male friends or really male interaction was high school, which is kind of strange given that the pool of men available exponentially increased when I got to college, but then, depression happened. So I wasn't really focused on them too much, as I shouldn't have been, and still probably shouldn't be. And there's so much to unpack with the feeling of not being desirable or like worthy of romantic or sexual attraction or attention. And that's another episode I think I want to do all in itself, because if I include that here, I'm going to be here for like 3 hours. And I don't know if y'all are down for that. Maybe. Probably not though. But yeah, never having like even the baseline experiences, but feeling that way towards so many other people has been not exhausting, but like it's a lot of expended energy into love. Because if you're a hopeless romantic like me, you're just drawn to people feeling good. You're drawn to people having this connection, and it's almost addictive, sort of, the way that love pulls you in. That's why people say it's a drug. That's why people do all types of crazy things for it, because it's this all-encompassing feeling, and it can be in so many different forms, but in the way that it's packaged to us, and especially Gen Zers like me, we've been given growing up, so many visuals of the nerdy girl getting the popular guy, 15 million renditions of the Cinderella story, where the girl with nothing, again, gets the attention of this guy with everything, and he sweeps off her feet, and he doesn't care about anything that she might have, quote unquote, wrong with her, like she wears glasses or she has frizzy hair or something else. And there's a whole nother avenue of that, not seeing Black girls in that position, which is also another episode in itself. But growing up Disney, Nickelodeon, everything, seeing people your age or supposed to be your age in these romantic situations that in media are sensationalized and romanticized. They romanticize the romance. It creates this expectation or this I'm not sure the word for it, but you're like, okay, it happened to them on TV. And obviously, when you're like 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, everything that happens on TV happened in real life. Side note, did anyone think, like, when episodes, like new TV episodes came on, the actors were like acting it as it was airing? And they like did the different scenes and stuff? I hope that's one of those things that everyone has, like, those moments where we realize we're all living the same life. Um, but anyway, because we see people that look like us in these situations that feel good and are about love, and the love always looks the same, we're like, okay, like, it's not unreasonable for me to want that or expect it to happen to me. And if you're a person that dates men, you know that men in real life are 99.9998% always a disappointment, from the Prince Charming in the movies, from the bad boy who falls in love with the good girl, from the football star who defies his teammates to be in love with the nerd. Like, they never, men in real life never give what they're supposed to give. They're never no shade to men, but also yes. They never, and this is also a greater issue because, of course, the way boys are socialized to perform masculinity and be this conquistador of women and their bodies and not really care about love, that's a whole. Men, I am so sorry that you were given that burden to unpack, and I hope that you do the work to do that. But men, they never want to take love seriously in real life. And that's also another letdown, because in the stories, the guys always do. They always fall in love at the same caliber as the female protagonist. And the expectation is like, where are the writers getting the inspiration from the TV boys? Because if they're supposed to be the same age as me, and the boys in real life the same age as me aren't doing that, and we're both watching the same show, what's going on? 2 plus 2 is not equaling 4, and I'm getting left with -6. So what's the tea? Of course, now sitting here thinking about it, talking about it, I have a more rational mindset, because obviously I've lived a little bit more life since when I was 12, and, you know, wanting a romance worthy of the art, worthy of like a Nickelodeon show finale, right? But for me, I've always taken love seriously. I've always known that marriage was something that was positive, and that it's two people being in love forever. My grandparents, at this current moment in time, have been married for almost 60 years. And seeing that, and of course the romanticized versions in media, it's like, who wouldn't want to spend the rest of their life with the one person that's their perfect match and compliments them and challenges them in all the correct ways and makes them feel on top of the world? And for me, seeing love in so many different areas and going into adolescence and getting into different fandoms, and the impact that fan fiction has had on me, this is why I'm the it's why I'm the person and the way that I am. And it makes me feel less alone, because obviously there's millions of so many talented writers. I've read so many fanfics that should be best-selling novels. That's also another episode. I'm so sorry. But for me, I've taken love and romance seriously from a young age. And of course, I knew it wasn't realistic to get a boyfriend at 8 or 11 or whatever. But in middle school, seeing other people start to do it and things like that, it's again the starting of that inadequacy that everyone is going through puberty, figuring out who other people are and why other people have parts and pheromones, and everybody smells bad, and it's just awful. But in terms of romance, like, when you're at that age in that environment, that's the only thing that matters, the most pressing thing. Oh, who am I going to go to the movies with? People are going to the dance with this person. Am I going to get slow dance with, or asked to do this? It's so much pressure. And again, middle school is a whole nother episode, a whole nother topic, because whoever invented that, putting a bunch of pubescent humans who are evil in one building for like 7 hours a day, jail for whoever invented the concept. But getting back on track, I meant to say the path that I meant to go down on was, when you're young and you start to think about love, seriously, but you're also mixing it with hormones and puberty and figuring everything out, it becomes this sensationalization of what love or romance or connection is supposed to be. And I think also when we don't address it with kids, see, I'm going into different tangents because I could go into how people sort of adultify kids' relationships, even starting as babies, like, oh, he's gonna be a ladies' man, or she's gonna have all the guys after her. And in middle school, like, oh, who are you dating? Like, starting those kind of questions. That's a bigger societal, the gender studies minor is jumping out once again. But taking love seriously when you're young, you don't think of it realistically. So everything should be sunshine and butterflies and rainbows. And it's going to be this perfect guy when you're 13, which, huh? It's the delusion for me. At that young age, we're pushed into this, oh, some people find their soulmates in 7th grade. And so you start to think every guy that you have a crush on, or if you had the opportunity to date, should be your one. And from there, we put the expectation and the pressure on girls to settle for somebody just to have somebody. And that didn't necessarily stick to me, because now as an adult and seeing that men are trash, like, I'm not pressed on trying to be locked down for the rest of my life right now, because I've seen too many girls that fell into that trap that young and ended up with babies, married, and miserable, a combination of the three, because of that pressure. And I'm not saying that they didn't make those choices themselves or they didn't have a say in it, but I'm also not saying that they weren't heavily influenced by how we socialize girls to think about love and partnership as opposed to the way we do for boys. Please forgive me if this episode is a little bit all over the place, because I have an outline and somehow I've jumped ahead of like 6 topics already in the intro, and I didn't mean to do that. But that's what being a hopeless romantic does to you. It makes you like question and like overthink every little thing, because you're thinking, oh, is this it? Is that it? And what about this and that? And then combining it with like life experience, it's a lot. It's a lot to unpack. But this next section I kind of wanted to go into off of the first one, being introduced to love like during your, I hate the word puberty. It's so ugly. Like, just the prefix pube. That's gross. That's nasty. That's disgusting. But so is that time in your life. So I guess it's fitting. But I wanted to go into that longing for connection and how it evolves through your adolescence and young adulthood. So, of course, being a hopeless romantic, I've had crushes on pretty much every boy that I've ever laid my eyes on and spoken to in some capacity. Even some I haven't spoken to or haven't seen for that long. And it's going back to expanding all of this emotional energy and frustration on other people and combining that with the expectations of what media is telling you it's supposed to look like. You get sort of sucked up into thinking that every guy could be this magical guy, and you don't see them for really who they are, which is other people still trying to figure themselves out. Now, elementary school, middle school me, of course, had no perception of that concept, right? So if a boy was nice to me, ooh, crush. If a boy had light up Skechers, ooh. If he brought fruit snacks to lunch, that's cool. He got money, he got taste. And it starts with that sort of juvenile attraction, or I guess affection, and it's just like real basic stuff. And crushes, they change and evolve. One day you like him, one day you don't. One day he's the love of your life, the other day you like never see him again, and it's not really that big a deal. But where it starts to get dicey for me is that none of these crushes ever materialized into what I thought at the time would be a fulfilling romantic relationship. Which is funny to like think about, being in that at 10 years old. But that's really what it feels like that you want, or that it could be, everything in that moment, because that's all you've ever lived is your brain going through these chemical changes and making you think about it this way. So of course it seems like ultimate that's your goal in life, or this one person at this one moment is going to be your whole life, because that's all you have. Your consciousness just kicked in a few short years ago while you were at Chuck E. Cheese or whatever. And so you're figuring out like the world and what you're doing and all of that. But for me, having all of these crushes, and none of them, well, I won't say none, because I did I did have a quote unquote boyfriend in first grade, kindergarten. Child, I don't remember. What did that last? Like a week, maybe, probably a couple days. He probably like broke my crayon, and I was like, goodbye. But besides those sort of things, as you go, I'm going to talk more about middle school and high school, but never having those feelings realized or reciprocated from the other person. It's that it starts to, child, here I go trying to censor myself. We're going to be real. There's no shame. But it starts to make you feel like, am I ugly? Am I capable of being wanted or desired? And I hesitate to say this because it makes me so sad to think that my younger self questioned if somebody would be able to love her. Like, that is so heartbreaking that I would think that about myself. And to know that that experience is not unique to me, and that there's so many, especially in a world that straight up tells Black girls that you're not, that you are not desirable unless you look like X, Y, and Z on days A, B, and C during these times of the week. Like, there's so much internalized stuff that surrounds like image and perception of beauty and beauty standards and all of this. Girl, I need to make the episode on it, because I'm sitting here like unlocking chambers in my mind, and I'm recording this. It's 10:45. This is why I love having this platform. Am I going to edit this episode? I think I might just upload it as is. Wouldn't that be crazy? We're just sitting here having girl chat. This reminds me of a conversation I had earlier last semester with one of my friends. We were just sitting, drinking, talking about boys as we do, and just like so candid and real. And I love those moments of connection between girl friendships. I love that. I miss you, girl. Sorry, not be going on another tangent. That's gonna be a theme for this episode. But never having your crushes reciprocated calls to mind those questions of, am I attractive? Why do other girls have boyfriends but I don't? Why do other people seem to be successful at this love thing but not me? And I feel like this, okay, I don't feel like, I know. It's because I was the girl that got asked out on dares that people pointed at and it's like, oh, that's your girlfriend. And the other guy goes, ew, no, never. I would never date her. I was always the girl that was the butt of the joke in a romantic context. Like, of course, no one would ask you out because of this, or of course, nobody would actually want to dance with you because of this. And that's why middle school is an evil institution of the United States government, because I'm getting mad. I'm getting mad just thinking about it, that's a thing that happens. But also, I've seen TikToks of girls that went through the same thing. So I know I'm not alone, and I saw it happen to other of my peers. But being that girl and having that mindset and that impression put on you that I'm being perceived by other people. First of all, other people are seeing me as I'm seeing them, but they're not seeing me as a potential mate or an object of their desires. I'm something to be laughed at. I'm something that is the opposite. That's the alternative picture of what they should want. That I'm the joke. And of course, asking someone out is like a dare is a complete act of violence. It, damn, I'm feeling like this is crazy. Just talking about this is bringing up all those feelings of hurt and how my younger self wanted to be loved or seen or desired because, puberty, everything starts kicking into gear. So you're thinking about other people in that way as well. And so to be seen as a joke for the person you are, but also for your desirability, that's layers of hurt. That's layers of, damn, so don't nobody really want me. And not just because I'm ugly on the outside, but because of something about who I am on the inside. So now that we've gone through my middle school traumas relating to desirability and love and relationships, yada, 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 despite all of that, love persisted. The pursuit and the idealization of romance and love still persisted beyond my reality as a middle schooler. So boys in real life weren't it. Unfortunately, I still had crushes, but I learned to be more discerning in who I gave my brain space to. Because of course, I never pursued them in real life because also, side note trauma, in 5th grade, I told a guy that I liked him and he got up and walked away. So we learned from that day, never doing that again. Not worth it at this point in time. So that's sort of the, that is so sad. Wow. Yeah, that's sort of the evolution of how I internalized that feeling going forward. But because real life was not giving what it was supposed to give, I turned inward. I turned to books. I turned back to movies. Not as something that I should be able to reach for in real life, but as something to aspire to. And this brings us from middle school Erica to high school Erica, who has a little bit more awareness about who she is and how she wants to love and be loved and receive love. So in terms of romanticism and turning inwards, books, movies, comics, TV shows, fan fiction, whatever, I'm internalizing that this want for this picture perfect storybook, everything goes right type of love, and questioning, yes, it exists in these pieces of fiction that I'm consuming, and we see very rare love stories happen in real life of people, having what we would consider to be, perfect, and questioning if this is realistic. Not even just for me, but in general. Is love something that can be picture perfect itself, just as a being? And now, as a 21-year-old, I realize that it is what you make it and your perception of it. There is no one way that love should look. Love is different for each relationship that it finds itself in, right? And for each person needs different things from love than other people. 2 people in a relationship need to be loved and to love each other differently, even though they're in the same partnership, So at this point, I have a little bit more of a quote-unquote realistic view of what love and relationships might look like for me, because I went to a small middle school, a small high school, where a lot of people transferred from the middle school to the high school. So at this point, I had sort of ran through the Rolodex of available boys that I could have crushes on, and either I was friends with them, hated them, was indifferent, right? Right. And so getting to high school, where you have a larger pool, where you start to meet people from different high schools and go to different events and meet people, and still never realizing or being seen romantically or sexually at this point, if we're being honest, which we are, because no shame. I don't know if dysphoria is the correct word, but in trying to figure out what's the problem, because in all of these situations where I'm looking for romance and it doesn't want me, I'm the only constant thing. So am I not finding love and romance at this time because of something wrong with me? Or is it lack of availability and there's nobody in the surrounding area that I'm in contact with that's possible to give me the romance that I'm looking for? Or is it both? And it brings to the question, again, high school, people get into even more relationships and even more mess. And it's like other people have it, the people that were in quote unquote healthy relationships, as healthy as it can be at 15, 16, they found it. Why haven't I found it? And it's not to say that other people aren't, it's not to say that people who aren't like me aren't deserving, because there are people, I'll say it this way. I was a smart girl. I was a girl who was good at school. I was a girl who could read, who could write, who always got good grades. I was funny. I had my group of friends in high school. I considered myself comfortable with where I was socially. And to me, for 16, I was kind of the full package, honestly. And I started to dress how I wanted to a little bit. I started to do my own hair, get better at makeup. And I'm like cringing because if I look back at old pictures, girl, you was not doing what you thought you were doing. It's like, all right, girl, let's get it together. Check your lipstick before you come for me. But at that point in time, because we can't fault ourselves for not knowing what we know now, because then what we know now did not exist. It didn't occur yet. So I'm trying to give my younger self grace from my older self, because I know what she was going through and I know what she didn't know. And so in talking about this, I'm learning about where I am now, but also seeing the lessons that I can teach myself in looking at where I was compared to where I've came. So as high school progressed and I never had a boyfriend, people had crushes on me, but of course it was not the people that I had crushes on. That's always how it works, right? And for me, not anything conceited, but people would say or tell my mom or something, oh, she's so pretty. Your daughter, she's so smart. She's such a good student. And people would say I was pretty, but it would be adults or parents or moms specifically. It's like, okay, yeah, I mean, I guess objectively, when you're comparing like tiny humans that somebody else created, yeah, they're going to be cute. But I never received that attention from a lot of people. Namely, I never received it from boys. And when I did, literally senior year, like 3 weeks before prom, it didn't hit. It didn't do anything for me, because at that point I had given up on getting it in high school. But also that situation was just like, child, high school, the ghetto. Even though I had come to terms with my high school reality and dating life, it didn't mean that I stopped fantasizing or aspiring to have it. Of course, I wanted to be asked to slow dance at prom, to be asked to go to prom, to be asked to go on a date at any time, period. To be thought of as not the girl who got asked out as a dare, but because somebody saw me for who I was on the inside, but also liked how I looked on the outside. And that's the funny thing about being a hopeless romantic, because even in the hopelessness of it not being completely realistic situations all the time, you are always hopeful that romance and love will persist. And that's, I think, has been the case for me, because at no point have I ever thought that in my entire life, I won't say in my entire life, it's never crossed my mind. It's like, oh, I'll never be in love. But now I know that even looking back then, I knew that my life would have love, even if it wasn't in the time frame that I wanted. So I knew in high school, I was like, oh yeah, one day I'll get married when I have my husband. Positive affirmations, period. I was like, when I'm married, when I have my husband, when I have my family, I'll look back at all this and laugh at how silly I was and how I wanted that relationship with these people who really don't mean that much in the scheme of things. But when we think about, or when I think about how I was in high school and internalizing this love and evolving from the children's section of books that didn't really involve love to the young adult section where things got a little more spicy and again, I was growing with these characters that I saw on TV and in movies and in these books, and thinking that, okay, I know realistically it's not going to happen for me now, even though I still really want it. It's that everyone is saying, oh, you have so much time. You know, high school relationships don't last anyway, which they don't. And when you're in college, you'll start to date. When you're in the real world, you'll meet people. And this is where the spiral happens, because it's like, okay, middle school didn't happen. High school didn't happen. All right, maybe college. And, well, I'll not be laughing at the mess that's my love life. But you start to think in high school, because of course everyone is asking you what you want to do with the rest of your entire life. You're thinking, all right, well, what if college doesn't work out and I don't meet them? What if in my job I don't meet anybody? What if I'm a 40-year-old virgin and then I'm old and I'm a spinster nun with 6 cats, even though I'm allergic to cats? You know, you start to do that doom thinking that just because your reality now is not what you want it to be, not even that your reality is not what you want it to be, but it's so hard to imagine the person you're going to become and the traits that they'll have and the things that they'll attract, that you can't even fathom what's in store for you in terms of love, because all you've known is the quote unquote failures in love of your youth. And when you're in high school, that's simultaneously exciting, but also terrifying. Because it's like, all I know is this, but I know that that's not going to be my life in the future, but there's no way for me to know the future life that I'm going to expect until I get there. And if you're like me, that is the most frustrating thing, to wait, to get to be the person that you're going to be. And you don't know when you turn into that person until you sit back and think about it, like I'm doing now. And that's the funny thing about life, because everybody goes through it. Hey y'all, whether you're an avid listener already or want to make your own podcast like me, Anchor is the easiest way to get started. Let me tell you about it. It's free. You can record and edit your podcast directly from your phone or computer. Anchor will do all the heavy lifting and distribute your podcast for you to major platforms such as Spotify and Apple Podcasts. You can even make money from your podcast. Yes, you can secure the bag with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast all in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Picture it, 2018. 18-year-old Erica, freshly graduated high school, looking forward to the romantic possibilities of college. Now, I won't say what she didn't know, but what she didn't expect was all the personal growth that would meet her before romantic growth did. And if you want to learn a little bit more about that, listen to episode 5. I won't go into that here because it's a lot and it's still #traumatic. Even though we've grown from it, we can acknowledge that it was not a fun time that we do not want to revisit. All right. But I'll skip forward ahead a little bit in time to 2019, I think. See, I've blocked it out already. But yes, I think 2019. If you listen to Dating App Dilemmas, the episode I did, which is my most played episode to date, y'all are nosy, but I get it. I understand. Part 2 is coming soon, maybe, possibly. Stay tuned for that. But we're going to fast forward to 2019 and Erica's still in shambles. Like, just not ready in the slightest. Downloads Tinder. And I'll leave you to listen to that episode for the nitty-gritty details and my experiences doing that. But I learned that my expectations were getting ahead of my reality, because I'm thinking, okay, it's college. I'm in a new state, a new city. There's so many new people that have also come from different places than I'm from. So I have to find my man here, right? Wrong. Especially not on the internet. I was not in a good place mentally to meet people in person. I tried. I had my moments. I still made friends and whatnot, but that's not the point of this episode. But in terms of dating after I, got the come up from my academic failures and struggles that way, dating was not, it was still uncharted territory, right? Because middle school didn't happen. High school didn't happen. Now here in college, after going through this existential identity crisis and sort of climbing my way up out of that, thinking, all right, I know myself now. I'm acclimated to this area. Let's get it popping. Where the men at? Where are the hood niggas? No, I'm kidding. I'm so kidding. Or am I? You'll never know. But it amplifies like times 1,000 in college, that feeling of inadequacy because other people are getting into relationships and you're not. Because now it's the semi-big leagues. We're adults. There's no parents here. You can do literally whatever you want. You can have a new guy every single day. And even though that possibility is there, didn't happen to me. And I think this is where hopeless romanticism and the lack of real romanticism in my life saved me. Because even though I felt lonely and I wanted to finally be desired as this new adult, quote unquote, at 18 girl, anyway, but being desired in this new adult way and situation, that time that I spent, the word that comes to mind is inhaling, which I mean is appropriate because I did like almost exclusively read romance content because that's what made me happy and that's what I like to consume. But the time I spent with myself developing my romantic needs and figuring out the type of love that I want to receive, the type of support and comfort that I was looking for in a partner, I think all of that time really served me well in discovering what my standards are and what I will and won't settle for and what I'm looking for. And any other hopeless romantics know we are perfectionists when it comes to romance because we've read every single iteration of a perfect romance that there can be. We make up scenarios in our heads and start over when we think of a new detail to add or something that we wanted to happen instead of what had previously happened in our scenarios. So I think that I'm being funny with that example, but also taking the time in my identity journey to really take those skills and wants and needs that I've learned. Once I figured out who I am as a person, then I felt ready to seek out what I wanted from other people. And notice I said wanted and not needed, even though because throughout my entire life, there are points where I felt like I wanted romance or love or relationship so bad that it would physically like hurt and I would cry about it. Like it felt like I needed it. Like if I didn't have it, I didn't know how I would keep going. But I thank God for clarity and time. Because when I tell you that I, in my entire life, will never, ever, 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 ever need a man or a relationship, I will never need it. That's power. When you know that everything you need to survive is within you, and the communities that you surround yourself with, you don't need a romantic partner. Yes, you can want it. You can want it really badly, but not platonic love, because that's sort of an oxymoron. But there's so many forms of love. That's what you also realize as a hopeless romantic. You don't just fantasize about romantic love, even though that is a big part of it, but it makes you so much more appreciative of all the other forms of love that you have in your life, because that's what you have to hold on to support you in your journey. Another tangent, sorry, just you don't need a significant other to be a good person. You don't need a significant other to live a good life. It may be something you want that may add to your life. That's perfectly fine, but you will never, ever, ever need it because you are whole on your own. Even if you go through periods of time where you feel like you're missing parts of you, that's okay. That's what living is for. That's what time is for. That's what healing is for. That's what experiences are for. That's what your other forms of love are for, is to help build you up into the person you are, who has everything that you need. Child, I started to talk about Tinder and I got triggered. And I had to go on a rant about self-love, because that place will take you. That square of pixels and zeros and ones on your cellular device will make you think all types of things about yourself. And for me, I was a pick me. Hello, my name is Erica, and I was a pick me. Yes, I know I was. Hear more about it in the Dating App Dilemmas episode. But like I was saying, as an adult, figuring out who I was and what I wanted, I started to seek it out. And every other person was having success. But this is also where things get dicey again, because at this point in your life, you have this wild freedom of youth, right? And you're not in the puberty stages where you're just figuring out what your parts do and why you feel certain ways in certain places. You can act, you understand them, and you can act on them. And everybody's acting on them. Everybody wants to hook up, get their various pieces and parts as wet, and then move on to the next one. And for me, as a hopeless romantic, yes, I think about sex. Yes, I thought about sex. Yes, I wanted it. But I knew deep down what I needed out of a partner first. And even though those desires were there, I knew myself enough to know that giving that of myself would be an extension of giving my heart and my love to somebody. And I cherished that love so greatly that I wouldn't want to give it away to just anybody. And not that virginity or being a virgin mattered to me, because that's a construct of the patriarchy to assign a woman's worth to a man's penis, and whether or not the absence or presence of one being inside of her makes her worth any more, any less. That's bullshit. So it was never a concern of being a virgin being pure. And that's not to say that anyone who holds virginity as a sacred concept is wrong or not smart or anything like that. But for me, sex is an extension of feeling and love that you have for somebody else. And being a romantic and wanting it to be perfect, not necessarily in the act itself, but with the right person at the right time for what you need. I wasn't looking to just have that randomly and that be my first experience dating as an adult. And this leads me into the trenches that is at least my experience of dating, which has been solely on apps on my phone, because social anxiety is real and she sucks. But this is where being a late bloomer and sort of a wallflower comes in, because we've talked about my experiences with desirability and, young romance and developing those skills. And for me, there's a lack thereof. I didn't get out all the awkward trying to flirt and let someone know you're interested in my youth. And now I'm in the quote unquote big leagues where everybody has gotten that out of the way and they're on these different levels. It's like, where is the guidebook? Nobody tells you how to do these things. It's just trial and error and experience. And it brings me back to those times feeling like that nerdy, undesirable girl that nobody wants as an adult, because now you're that girl who has a little bit more confidence, but has never, I'll put it this way. On the outside, now I'm this woman who looks like she knows what she's doing, but on the inside, I'm the middle. I am. No. Sorry. Again, getting emotional for my younger self. On the outside, I'm this woman who looks like she's supposed to know what she's doing, or somebody who looks like they may have experience. But on the inside, I'm the ugly duckling that got asked out as a dare. On the inside, I'm the girl who wanted to be wanted so bad, but became okay with the fact that nobody would want her in the foreseeable future. So to be thrown into this arena where everybody not only knows what they want, but will scheme and lie to get it, Oh, can you imagine how traumatic that is? Imagine me. No, I'm kidding. I can't imagine it because I lived it. And it's feeling like I said, you didn't get out the awkwardness in your youth. So now you're talking to these guys who tell you one thing but mean another thing and are trying to seem like they're the good guys that you've grown up fantasizing about in your dreams, but really they're not. And it's like, damn. So here is where I have to start managing my expectations, which is the most passive aggressive phrase I've ever heard. But it's like, okay, yes, this is the pool of men that I have, which admittedly is expanded. And so theoretically, hypothetically, there is at least one man out here that is compatible that I could feasibly see myself in a relationship with. But if the majority of them aren't, how do I gauge what to expect? How do I, as the hopeless romantic who wants to be swept off her feet, know how much is bare minimum that I shouldn't put up with, but how much is too much? Obviously, we're in college. We're all poor, most of us. So it's not going to look the way it looks in books where either money isn't an object or it's established that the characters have it. You know, is it too much to want somebody to see me every day? Or is that too little? You know, things like that you establish as you date in your youth that now being thrown into it as an adult, I don't know. And so now I'm coming up with my own life, which also helps because I'm not bound to like a strict school schedule and I have my own transportation, my own money and things. But it's hard to get what you want or find what you're desiring out of these situations when the actors on the other side, your teammates, for lack of a better word, are 15 steps ahead. And so because you're listening to the sound of my voice talking about this right now, I've navigated and survived the waters of dating up until this point. And it's a win for me now, and it's a win for all the versions of myself that wanted to be loved so much, because I was so lucky to. Now I did, you know, there were some obstacles in the way before I got to this person, but I was able to get to this person and have this relationship that wasn't perfect, of course, because there is no perfect between two imperfect people and people that are constantly changing and figuring out who they are. But I was so lucky to find a connection with someone that I care about so incredibly deeply and love, who is the embodiment of what I needed. Of what I needed to feel loved, to feel desired, to feel that romance was realistic for me. I've only been I went on my first dates with this person. This person was my first kiss. I'm so happy that even though the relationship has evolved at this point and is changing still, that the times that we shared were so gentle and healing, and what we both needed. You see, here I go with need. I say need because my younger self felt so incredibly inadequate that to her, she needed somebody to tell her that she was worthy of being loved. And so I say need for that reason. But that we both wanted, that felt right, and that how this relationship was whatever. It came at a time where I was finally ready. I love myself. I'm in love with myself. I provide for myself. I am my home. I am my safe haven. I am my friend. I am my sister. I am my everything. And I think before, when I, first came out of figuring out my new identity as this person that I am, I was looking to find a relationship just to see if now I finally could. But I think the relationship that I have with this person, who was my first romantic, I won't say encounter because we were together. But when we got together, I knew that I was worthy of love, even if I didn't have it at that current moment, or if it wasn't finding me in the way that I wanted it to. And he was everything that my younger self needed. He showed me that I am love. I have it. I'm capable of giving it, and I'm capable of receiving it. He showed me that the girl who never thought that somebody would want to spend time with her or hug her, or the girl who thought she wouldn't get her first kiss until 25, the girl who had never been asked on a date, the girl who had never been somebody's crush is now. She's not hopeless anymore. That hopeless romanticism, it realized. And I think that's the thing about first loves and first relationships, is they're so transformative, in that this is the first person, this other human being, this other soul that you have been dreaming about having this connection for your entire life. And this is the first person you feel like understands you, that gets you, that wants to learn you, that wants to love you. It's the strongest thing I've ever felt. The strongest and most scary, exhilarating, healing, confusing, beautiful thing that I've ever felt in relationship to another person, in relationship to a man. It's the tears for me. And this is the first time, I guess, kind of putting that into words since the relationship has evolved. And for me, as a romantic, and as a late bloomer, I've had time, like I said, to think about who I wanted to give my heart to. And I'm so glad that this person both has a piece of me and is a piece of me, and always will be. And I love him. And now, from this experience, I know, like I said before, I've always known that my life will be full of love. And I know that it'll change, and there will be many loves. I'll have maybe many boyfriends, maybe many fiancés, maybe many husbands. I'll have a lot of sex. I'll go on a lot of dates. I'll eat a lot of meals. I'll go out dancing with a lot of different people. I'll have so many different experiences and stories to tell. But this first one, I am so incredibly grateful for giving me that experience. And even though it's changed, I cherish it so much, because you're always waiting for the first, right? And it's always first in greeting cards and movies: first love, first kiss, first date, first everything. And I'm so glad I had discernment about who I shared my first with. Not because it makes me morally better than somebody else who didn't put thought into it, or it didn't mean anything to them, but I know that I made the right choice for me in waiting for the person who, in the grand scheme of things, was meant to be mine for the time that he was and is. And the great thing about hope and love, and knowing that And knowing and appreciating the power of love is that you know that it's not one and done. You know that love changes. It's like energy. It can't be created nor, well, I won't say it can't be destroyed. So scratch that analogy, actually. But love is an energy. It's a transfer. It's an exchange. It's a partnership. It's a dance. It's a share. It's so much, this collaboration that you go in with somebody. And the great thing about it is, like I said, it's evolving. It doesn't mean that the end is the end or that this time is the only time. And I think that's the beautiful thing, is that even though I wanted a romantic love and I have it, I didn't lose it. It's just changed. And love, the great thing about love is within any love story, any book, movie, whatever, is that the characters change. But the one thing that's consistent is love. The greatest of these is love. And so knowing that even though the love may look different, the satisfaction and not peace, I don't know the word, but just the feeling of knowing that I gained what I had to gain from the romantic part of our love, and now it's evolving into maybe a different part of love. And perhaps it'll turn back romantic, perhaps it won't. But the greatest thing is that we shared it at that time for what it was. I'm excited to see how that love evolves and which new loves I'm going to be blessed with. I'm very glad that I declared the pod a no shame zone at the beginning of this episode, because I fully cried. I fully stopped the recording and cried for another few minutes. And that's sort of been the pattern lately regarding love. But I wanted to finish off this episode giving hope for the hopeless out there, giving fertilizer, water, and sunlight to the fellow wallflowers. These are some of the lessons that I've acquired, and I think I have a good grasp on, regarding being a hopeless romantic, regarding being a late bloomer, regarding being someone who holds love so highly but hasn't yet encountered it or is just beginning to become exposed. My first point here is to realize that love is not unattainable. It's simply time-bound. If you've learned anything from this episode, and if you take anything from this episode, I hope it's that time is not your enemy. Time is allowing you to grow and become the person you're supposed to be. And it's also doing the same for the person who's meant to be your love, who's meant to be your romantic partner. Timing is the key to being ready to receive, but also being ready to give. Because the worst feeling is having a love, but either one or both of you isn't ready to receive it in the full extent and capacity of each of your hearts. Not me about to cry again. But yeah, realize that love is on its own schedule. It pops up when you least expect it, but always when you're ready for it. I won't even say that. Even if you're not ready for it, even if things don't work out, it showed up when you needed to learn something. And even if we get ourselves into toxic situations, time and your growth up until that point and after that point is all serving as a lesson to get you to realize more of what you desire, and thus you can attract what you need to yourself. Everything is a lesson if you choose to learn from it, and time is how you study and retain the information. Point number 2 is to give yourself the love that you desire. Be the partner that you want out of somebody else. And this it can be easier said than done. Everyone's like, oh, self-care, self-love, take yourself out on dates, do everything by yourself, be your own boyfriend, blah, blah, blah. Yes, it's part bullshit, but also it's mostly true. I think you have to think about it as developing the relationship with yourself, not necessarily pretending to be somebody else to fill a void that you have, but just learn more about you, because with time and learning and spending time with you, you learn more about what you desire. And as a hopeless romantic and as a wallflower, you've had the time to figure it out. And I think as we grow and get ourselves into new situations, new environments, what we need and what we want changes and grows as well. In love and everything, you have to be able to know yourself and stay true to yourself and keep up the love with yourself, even if you're wrapped up and preoccupied in this other person. So in giving yourself the love that you desire, it's exploring intimacy. And when we think of intimacy, everyone's mind always goes to sex. That's always the first thing that it is physical intimacy. But intimacy, in its definition, dictionary.com says, characterized by or involving warm friendship or personally close or familiar association. There's nothing that says that has to be solely in a romantic context. Intimacy is getting on a call with your friends and going out to lunch, taking your girls' trip, going on a picnic. Intimacy is having a game night with your family, catching up with everybody, calling your grandparents, writing a letter. Intimacy is watching your favorite TV show and engaging with other people on the internet about it. Intimacy is developing a friendship and a relationship with yourself and others. And I think the greatest thing about intimacy is that you're developing the friendship with yourself, and in learning how to treat yourself better, you learn how to treat others better. And of course, that's going to translate positively into a romantic relationship, because it's showing yourself your opportunity areas, because we can all improve, be a better friend, listener, son, daughter, whoever, to somebody in some way. And when you develop a friendship with yourself, it may be hard, but it's also a gentler ease into becoming the person that you're meant to be through developing your relationships with people that know you already personally and aren't clouded by being in love with you. Because of course, everybody that meets you should be in love with you. Intimacy with friends and family and self is important, but also, girl, I understand. Nights get cold. Beds get lonely. There's lots of space. When it gets to be, not me trying to beat around the bush, we're real here, right? No shame zone. Intimacy is also physical with yourself. There's audio, video, devices, experiences, professionals, all these different things you can seek to figure out what makes your cat purr. Something that will prove that the song WAP was written about you. That's also an important part of figuring out who you are. Because as a hopeless romantic, sex is it's not a given, because not every romantic partnership has to involve that. But I think if you're a person who has sexual desire, it's important to learn what that means by yourself, what your body wants from you, what works the best for it. Because just like with your heart and your mind and your life, it's not going to work incorporating somebody into it if you don't know what's going on yourself. So get to Googling, open some incognito tabs, period. My third tip is to hope for the best, but expect nothing. The hardest lesson I've had to come to terms with and learn is realizing that I am deserving of love. I am capable of love. I am worthy of it, but it's not owed to me just because I want it. I'm going to say it again. I am deserving and worthy of love, but it is not owed to me just because I want it. There is nothing you can do, say, force, coerce, bribe out of somebody who you want to love you, but they can't or they don't want to. There is no way to force love out of a situation just because you want it very badly. Respect yourself enough to wait for the thing that's meant for you. That wait is frustrating. That wait is lonely. That wait is sad. That wait feels like it's never ending. But like I said, with time and waiting, it exposes the true reasons why you're longing for what you're longing for. As a hopeless romantic, we think, yeah, we're drawn to love and romance. I just want to be in love. I just want to be happy. I just want to be this. But that can cloud you being honest with yourself. You can say, yeah, I believe in all those things, but really you have a deep-seated fear of being alone. And you think that love, while yes, it's great for all that it is, I also won't be alone anymore. And it's fine to not want to be alone, but you can't use romantic love to fill something that you feel is a flaw of yourself. And also, as hopeless romantics, it's about the aesthetics. It's about the picture perfect moment. So we have to ask ourselves, do we want love because it looks nice? Because our friends with a boyfriend look like they're having fun? Because people on Instagram look like being in a relationship is a great time? Have we looked at or sought out the information from people who have been in relationships for long periods of time? Have we sought out the other side of hopeless romanticism, which is reality, is that stuff is hard. Love is, it's not a job, but because we're humans who change and grow and have bad days and get mad and say the wrong things and fuck up, you have to realize that love is not this perfect thing. The idea of perfect is relative, but perfection in its definition that it's flawless, nothing is wrong, nothing can go wrong, is not true. And this is why I say you can't force anything and you can't expect anything from love, because when you expect things, you start making up things that aren't there. You start asking things of people that they cannot give you, and they're showing you that they can't give you that, but you're expecting it because you think it's owed to you because you want it so bad. It's not. I promise you, take the time to sit and look at the words that are in front of the page. Look at the signs that this situation or person is telling you. Not every instance or opportunity we have to pursue love or romance is meant for us. Sometimes they come into our lives to teach us a lesson. I have a lot of friends who are hard-headed. They have to do the thing for themselves that I told them will not be good in order to learn that they shouldn't have done the thing. Even for hopeless romantics, we get excited that finally, this person has come along that I think can fulfill the story or the trope that I've been pining for my entire life. And we go down these paths with people who can't give that to us in the fantasized capacity that we think of. So either this person could be completely wrong for you and you learn that way, or this person can love you in a different way than you expect, and you have to decide if you're ready to do the work to accept it as it is. People change, we grow, we make mistakes. As a person that dates men, speaking to other people that date men, men will disappoint you. It's inevitable. He's going to do wrong, sis. He's going to say the wrong thing. He's going to do something to piss you off. He's going to do something to disappoint you. Now, the level of this disappointment, where it turns to disrespect, that is a boundary that you have to decide what you will put up with. There are things that I think are non-negotiables for me that should be for everybody, but they aren't. And everybody's love is different. But the main thing I want you to take away from this is to not place any of your self-worth, respect, esteem in the hands of somebody else, regardless of if they're the love of your life, regardless of if the romantic relationship is everything you dreamed of and is beautiful and perfect and healthy, because there is no way that love will fill a void inside of you. There's no way that being dependent on another flawed, imperfect human being is going to make you whole. That doesn't make sense. Two broken pieces of two different puzzles can't complete each other's puzzle. Think about that. Even though it's beautiful in its own way, when you two are solid enough to realize that you can love each other in the way you both need while acknowledging that you both will change and evolve, that's what's beautiful. But you cannot force that just because you want it. You can't force it. You cannot force love, because then it turns into a labor, not a labor of love, just labor. Slave labor, sis. You're in a chain gang trying to hold on to Tyrone and them when he's ready to run the streets. He's saying, let me go, but you won't because you think you deserve love from this person for X, Y, and Z reasons. Remember, you will never need it, especially from places that are telling you that they cannot love you in the way that you know you deserve. Still under point 3, because I'm on a roll. You see the tangents that we go on. You see the soapbox that I'm setting up, sitting here talking to myself in my living room. But in the same vein of hoping for the best but expecting nothing, in dating, you should have yourself as your highest priority. Even if you're looking for love, remember, you can't accept it in its full form unless you are whole yourself. So knowing not exactly, because people can change, you can discover things you never thought you wanted or needed. But when you have these baseline standards of what respect versus disrespect, what you'll tolerate, what do you want versus what you can compromise on, that's what dating should be about. Dating should be about finding who who supports and uplifts a part of your heart or a part of your being that you're looking for. Who is adding to your already overflowing cup? That's what dating should be about, because you are so priceless. You are so precious to give your energy and parts of your life to somebody who is not deserving of it, or is out to drain it from you, or who doesn't respect love in the way that you do. You don't have time. You don't have the time for that. You have to put your time into things that will fulfill you, because the greatest love that we will ever have is between ourselves. It's with you, because you are going to have you 24/7 for however long the universe decides that you should live. So in dating, I know it's easy to get swept up in finding the person or what this other person is about, because you're browsing just like all these arbitrary traits about a person. But at the end of the day, you have to realize, and even when you start talking to people, how deserving is this person of my energy and my time? How deserving is this person of my heart? Not saying that love and dating should be all these boxes to tick, but you know what's right for you and what's not. You know what is going to annoy you to no end, or what fundamental things don't sit right with you and that you can't agree to disagree on with somebody. Dating should be fun. It should be a learning experience. It should be transformative. Dating is simply a tool to get you on the path to the love you're meant to have at that time in your life. One of the hardest parts for me, especially being a late bloomer and having a fear of failure, is rejection. And part of dating is being rejected, is being not a right fit, is sometimes awkward, sometimes uncomfortable, sometimes just weird. And you can't be afraid of falling apart, or you can't be afraid of your relationship falling apart, or being rejected, or things not working out. As people, you are going to enter different stages and phases and gain new skills, lose skills, so many things that go on, not even just in your life, but in your heart, and realizing who you are and what you deserve, that it's okay that things evolve. It's okay that things change. It's okay to learn something from a situation or a person and recognize the good things that you took from it, and the areas that were opportunities that expose something about you or the other person, or the way you love, or the way they love, or the way you want to be loved, and to let things go. It's okay if not everything ends in a date or a kiss or whatever. It's okay if things don't end up the picture perfect way we're conditioned to want them to. Nothing about love should be forced. And sometimes rejection and fading away, separation is natural. And you have to be okay with that possibility. And I know that it hurts, the thought of losing someone that you really want to love and that you do love, if you end up getting into a relationship that doesn't work out. You have to realize shit is just going to hurt. Shit will suck. You will feel things that you never thought you could. You will feel hurt that you didn't think was possible to feel for another person that's still alive. You just have to not be afraid of the process, the other parts of love that come with it. There's love and then there's pain. There's happiness, there's sadness, there's ups and downs. So you just have to do what you have to do to get through it. Cry, scream, breathe. No, even though it sucks, it's okay for things to suck and for you to not learn the lesson right away. I'm a big proponent of being mad at things. I can be pissed off about something. That's in my right as a human who has the ability to feel angry for some things. And in the process of grieving a relationship or a love or a person or a thing or a feeling, it's okay to go through different phases and feel different ways about something that you once loved or know that you still do love, but you're mad at. That's okay, and you cannot be afraid of that process. This is why not having such high expectations is a good thing, because you just take the love as it is. You take the lessons that are coming to you at face value, and because you are a whole person on your own, and because you know you don't need this love that's not working in this capacity, you're better able to handle whatever comes your way. Even if it still hurts, even if it sucks, you know that you'll come out of it on the other side and you'll be okay. And there will be more love waiting to receive you. My final point is that your fairy tale is waiting for you. Your quote unquote perfect love story, perfect for you love story is out there. And it may not be with one person. It may not be with one person at that time. It could be with the same person in a different time, or with two different people, or however. And the person might not look how you thought they would look. It could be somebody from a different country, someone that you grew up with but you didn't know in the same city. Your story is waiting for you to discover it. That sounds funny, but I believe that some things are destined, that everything that happens is meant to teach us something in some way. And we do have control to an extent over what we do. Like I said, you can establish your boundaries, know what you're looking for, know yourself, loving yourself, being intimate with yourself, developing those relationships with other people to better facilitate those in a romantic context. But I think where we get messed up is that, again, that perfect, hopeless romantic picture, we think it should look the way we've always dreamt it to look when we were kids, or the way that our favorite movie said that love should look, or the way our parents' relationship should look. But the beautiful thing about love is that it changes. It takes so many different forms. It could be something that the least expected thing in your entire life. And the beauty is in the journey. The beauty is in discovering something that is so great for the two of you. The beauty is in creating this unique phenomenon that your two souls were meant to interact with and learn from and share and be in this moment. I think that's the greatest thing. If you could bottle love and sell it, you would be a quadrillionaire, because people are always chasing this thing and we always think it has to be perfect. But I think the most important thing about love is clarity and peace of mind and knowing what's right and what's not. And for me, I don't know if I want to say that love gets clouded by human decisions and that's why people make bad decisions when they're in love. I don't know. I can't answer that, but I just know that the love that I believe in, the love that I attract, the love that I see is my story. If I want to be Cinderella and he's Prince Charming, then that's what it'll be. Love is anything that I say. I just put out into the world the components that I want the love to have, how I want it to make me feel. It can manifest itself in a multitude of ways, in a multitude of people, in different years, times, locations. And that's, again, the greatest part about it and the scariest thing about it. And that's sort of just the scary thing about adulthood, is like you can plan the best you can, but shit just happens. Shit just be happening and it keeps happening and you have to adjust. But at least it's a constant. And it's a constant that you can have some control over. It's hard to say because at times love has felt so constricting. It's felt like it's the only thing I could think about. It's the only thing that was on my mind. I just wanted it so bad. And it had this control over me, and I wish I could just stop wanting it. I wish I could just be not loveless, but not desire romantic connection so much. Sitting here reflecting on it, I think that's an important part of my soul and my personality, being in this world that's so full of all this different stuff and hatred and people not respecting each other just for fundamental things. I find beauty in two people being able to say, despite all of these odds, despite everything that's going on around us, we fulfill each other. We can help each other realize that our life is worth living despite what other factors say that it isn't. I think the greatest lesson is that your person or people are out there, your experiences are out there, and you shouldn't limit yourself to what you think it should look like or what you think it should be or what time you think it should happen at. And when you realize that your fairy tale is waiting for you, you enjoy the journey. You become the main character. You are the protagonist. You are the girl in the movie, in the book, that goes through this beautiful journey and learns about herself and meets these people and has these relationships and these experiences that are so wonderful. And they'll be everything that you ever longed for, and you'll fulfill your younger self who couldn't or wasn't ready to have it or do it. And whether this is all accumulates into one relationship for the rest of your life or just multiple throughout, knowing that the accumulation of love and romance that you attract in your life is just overflowing your already full cup. It's the waterfall into your ocean of love and possibility, I think, is the greatest notion. That you have the love that you need inside of you, and that romance is just a nice little extra that we have in this life. Well, I hope you enjoyed this novel of an episode. We had a lot of journeys. I unpacked a lot of things, and I think that was really cathartic and helpful for me. I literally sat here and cried thinking about what I've learned about love and how I've thought about it and how I've changed as a person and how my ideas of love have changed and how I can honor my younger self and her desires and her wants through my current actions while still developing and learning who I am. So I hope you out there listening maybe learned something or could relate. I hope you share it with someone you think can learn something or relate. And I'm very appreciative of this space that I have, and that hopefully some hopeless romantic little girl who is just waiting for her love to arrive is listening to this at some point and realizing that she is worthy all on her own without somebody to say that she's beautiful and that she is worthy of being loved, and that all the love she could ever want is on the other side of her realizing that she is enough. So thank you so much for listening to this episode of Pages from My Notebook, a true to life podcast. I'll see you here next time, and I hope to have you listening again soon. Pages from My Notebook, a true to life podcast, is a passion project by yours truly, Erica Barnes. Read episode descriptions and more at pagesfrommynotebookpod.com. Follow the pod on Instagram at pagesfrommynotebookpod and like the pod on Facebook at facebook.com/pagesfrommynotebookpod. You can support the pod monthly via Anchor at anchor.fm/ patreon.com/Erica-Barnes/support. I hope to have you listening again soon.